Welcome back to our weekly show. Today's topic is MCAS and daily calm, everyday practices for healing. For those who are new to the MassCell 360 community, I want to welcome you. I am Jamie Fries-Miller. I'm a health coach here at MassCell 360, and today I'm going to be joined by our lead practitioners, Alex Bingham and Kimberly Quirk. So we have some good information for you guys today on how you can calm your nervous system with some daily practices. If you're just joining us, feel free to jump into the comments, let us know, say hi, let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to see where in the world this community is. So before we jump in and bring our practitioners up, I just have our quick show disclaimers. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes. It's not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent illness, so be sure to discuss any recommendations we share today with your healthcare provider. And just an affiliate reminder that some of the links shared during this presentation or on our website are affiliate links. This means that MassCell 360 may take a very small commission if you purchase through our links. We only recommend products we love and use personally or use in the MassCell 360 clinic. And your purchase through our links helps promote things like this free show and some of the free resources on our blog as well. So we really do appreciate it. It helps us keep putting this information out there for you guys. So I'm going to bring up our lead practitioners. Welcome, Kimberly. Welcome, Alex. And so today we're going to be talking about everyday support. So what are some habits that can promote calm, health, healing, specifically gratitude. We all have some gratitude practices that we love on our team that we're going to share with you today to maybe give you some ideas if gratitude currently isn't part of your healing journey. We're going to talk about how we have to heal the whole self, not just the physical body, but the mental and the emotional and spiritual pieces of that as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about the power of community. And so again, just thank you for being here today and being part of this community with us. Before we jump in, I do want to share that if we have time, we'll do a live Q&A. So please only ask your question one time. It helps us keep track of those questions coming in. Please keep it on the topic of today's show, and please know that we're unable to answer in-depth personal health questions. So thank you so much for understanding. All right, Kimberly, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would love to. So just big picture, everything is connected. I know in conventional medicine, we very much, dental separated from mental health, so separated from the body. It's all connected, right? So just thinking of your body as a whole system, and with everything is deeply interconnected, and nothing is working in isolation. There's a lot of communication that goes back and forth. Your nervous system, which runs throughout your body, plays a very central role, as does your mast cells, which is in your immune system, found at the end of every nerve. They do a lot of communication back and forth between each other. So in mast cell, it's really important that we look at both of those, and they keep communicating back and forth. So for instance, if you had some kind of mast cell reaction, say to mold or another trigger, that can rev up our fear piece, right? Our limbic system. And like, oh no, am I going to have a flare? And like it can escalate from there. So the back and forth is important, and it's why in mast cell, we make sure we address both the mast cell side, the immune side, as well as that nervous system side. Because if you just try to calm down one or the other, I know in clinic, we like to talk about it as a three-legged stool, where you have, you want an even stool. If it has three legs, those three legs are our limbic system, our vagal system, and our mast cells. And so if we do, work on one and not the other two, we can have a lopsided stool. So I love that concept for talking about how everything's connected and balancing between it all. Calming one helps calm the other. And sometimes these systems go haywire. Usually we've seen it due to toxins, specifically mycotoxins from mold, but also infections play a role. Stress can play a huge role, right, in our nervous system state, just what we're thinking and what we're worried about not getting better or the symptoms and things like that. So managing that stress and that mindset piece. And then, of course, if we've ever had any trauma and things like that, that can be living in our body and kind of upregulate our system. I very much like to think of our nervous system as our operating system of our whole body, and how our nervous system state can be if it's in a different state, like say you're in fight or flight versus being in a calm and healing state, your body is just going to operate differently and prioritize different things. So big picture, that's kind of how everything is connected. So some things to think about are some daily, I know this is not like the sexy stuff, right? Or the big, amazing thing that we're going to do. It really is that daily showing up for ourselves and putting some practices in place and being consistent with it, right? Our body notices when we're consistent or not. So these are some of these ways that we can do that, where it puts our body in more of a calm state. So regular sleep, trying to keep that consistent bedtime, wake time as much as possible. A daily self-care ritual. What does your body need, and how can you meet those needs in a daily way? It could be something really simple, but it can be nervous system work. It can be all kinds of things. But what kinds of things do you do for you? Because I know sometimes a lot of mast cell people I see come in have that pattern of doing for others and not always doing for ourselves. So what kinds of self-care things do you need? Good hydration. I know it's basic, but it's huge because it's how we detox our body. We're so much water. So making sure, what does good hydration look like? As a general rule of thumb, we say take half your body weight. So say you're 150 pounds would be 70. So half your body weight in ounces of water. So it'd be 75 ounces of water, which is a good baseline. If you're someone who's only drinking 30 ounces, don't jump up to 75 ounces right away, but slowly, incrementally increasing with that good goal, maybe a month out or something. Daily movement is huge. And I know that was really frustrating for me when I went through my journey too, because sometimes my daily movement was walking to the mailbox or just emptying the dishwasher. And that has changed over time for sure. But thinking about movement and not exercise, and thinking about how can you increase it, because that moves our lymphatic system and keeps our body healthy in terms of moving everything along, keeps reminding our body that we want to make mitochondria and make energy and keep things moving. Reducing and avoiding triggers for sure is huge on how to calm things down. So figuring out what those triggers are and how can you reduce them. Supportive foods, absolutely, kind of finding what supports your body best. Everybody's diet is different. In the practice, we recommend everybody start with a low histamine diet at minimum, right? Just to reduce that histamine piece, which sets off those mast cells for so many. Supportive supplements and medications, so adding those on, which we do in clinic. And then that nervous system work, which I don't want to minimize because that's at least 50% of it for mast cell. For some people, it's 90%. For some people, it's more like 50%. And when we have a lot of triggers on board, which I know when I came in, I was triggered all over the place. So no amount of nervous system work made a difference at that time, but it did help things from getting bigger and louder. So when we're doing the nervous system work, there is the limbic piece, which is like the brain retraining piece that people often call, which is like top down. It's our mindset, it's our emotions, it's that kind of piece. Where we're directing, the way more that if we can be more positive and more have a hope and things like that. And I know we'll be talking about gratitude and things like that. That can be some of that limbic piece. And then the other piece is the vagus piece, which is like what we call bottom up, which is things that sort of live in our body, and how we can do what we can do to kind of calm things down and kind of let things go. And then, that gratitude piece is huge and can be part of like that nervous system work. So tips for progress on onboarding some of this, because it is a challenge. So don't do it all at once is probably one of the biggest tips for mast cell overall, right? Just to go low and slow. So picking one thing at a time to work on. When you change things, changing one thing at a time so that you know if, I'm flaring or I feel better, this is helping or it's not for me right now. Um, Another helpful tip is what I call habit stacking or piggybacking your habit on an old habit. So if it's you're having a hard time remembering your binders, maybe it's putting the bottle of binders by your toothbrush because that's already a habit that you have that you're doing twice a day or twice a day on the teeth brushing, but maybe you only take the binders at night. But just things like that. There's a lot of clients who say, I keep forgetting to do my nervous system stuff. So some will be like, okay, every day after lunch or before lunch, I set aside 5, 10, 15 minutes to do some of my nervous system supports, and they just start that habit. So sort of habit stacking. Using reminders like a soft alert on your phone or a sticky note somewhere visible just to kind of bring you out of your normal habits, and then aiming for consistency, not perfection, because sometimes I do see this pattern with Nacelle where this was me too, the all or nothing, right? Kind of like, oh, I didn't do it right, so I got to stop and I'm not going to do it at all, versus the can we slowly and just show up imperfectly how we are and just consistently keep showing up for ourselves in a small way. And that's how change happens. And I think that's how healing happens as well. Listening to your body and going as slow as you need to. So not comparing yourself to somebody else's journey, because this is truly your journey. So yeah, listening to your body and going at the pace that you need.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly, for kind of that brief overview and of course just some tips to get going, because I feel like that's the hardest part is like, where do you start? And so we're going to give you some ideas of where to start, and then like Kimberly said, just choose one of those. One of those is a great place. All right, so a lot of the times we often when we're feeling overwhelmed, right, or where do we like need this like daily calm, right? We need the daily calm every single day because that can help us prevent the flare. But what we know is the flare may be inevitable because there are things outside of our control. So when I'm talking with new clients all the time, I'm saying things like, okay, we know stress is inevitable. And the goal with having the daily practice is that we kind of work that invisible muscle so that when we're stressed, we're able to get back down into that parasympathetic state faster. And so it's really helpful to kind of have a flare plan. If you don't know what that is, we have a whole blog post on it. You can see the link at the bottom, masscell360.com/flare, which will go into more detail about, why do we prioritize rest, reducing stress, increasing that nervous system work, the drinking of the more water. Are we tolerant of electrolytes? Can we add some electrolytes in? A lot of my flares are from getting relaxed with my diet and saying like, oh, it's from March to April, we have 5 birthdays in my family. And so I definitely eat things that are not part of my normal diet. But within that like celebration, and I actually shared this in an interview the other day about how I've been able to onboard so many more foods because I don't stress about having that food in. So I don't stress about it, but then my body has a physical reaction. So then it's like a good reminder. It's like, okay, like rest. One of my biggest fatigue symptoms is fatigue. It's like, that is my body just being like, go rewind, foundation. So having a flare plan, reminding to dial in the foods again, increasing the supports that you do tolerate. So feel free to check out that blog post, put together your own flare plan. And if you're still thinking like, okay, well, I still don't know what to do. What are these nervous system pieces? I think, so Kimberly talked about, the limbic piece and the vagal piece. And so I'm going to give you guys some free examples that you can start today and you can go on and research. So the first one for the limbic is called the emotional freedom technique. And this is, some people know it as tapping. And this is the limbic. Like I said, this can do both limbic and vagal because we kind of slow down and get present when we're doing it. But with the limbic piece, like Kimberly said, is the top down. So we kind of get in our head and we pick something that we're experiencing in the moment. So, and again, you can do this along with me or just watch, and you can come back to this replay and watch it and then do it. Also, we have a nervous system reboot course. So I'm going to throw up the link for that while I'm doing these examples. If you kind of are like, okay, I have no nervous system supports on board and you really want to deep dive into this, because like Kimberly said, for some of our clients, it's 50% of healing. For others, it's 90% of healing. So we do highly recommend the nervous system reboot. If you're kind of new to all of this, it's a great overview of what to do. So here is the link for that course. And I'm going to start with, again, the emotional freedom technique. So if tapping is too overstimulating, you can kind of hover over the point without touching, or you can kind of lightly touch but don't tap. So those are some options where if it's overstimulating, you can still do the practice. And we're going to identify first an issue, whether that's emotional, a physical symptom, a circumstance, a worry, or a fear that you currently have. So first pick something going on in your life. So for me, I'm just going to use this example because a lot of people in this community have mold toxicity. I myself am still going through mold detox. So I'm going to use this example. And I'm going to use the example of, even though I have mold toxicity, and you'll see the script that goes on, and I'm going to rate how I feel about that. So at this moment, my anxiety or worry about having mold toxicity is about a 6. So we're going to rate it from 0 to 10, right? So I'm at a 6 right now. And then I make the sentence, even though I have this mold toxicity, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So then we're going to tap on certain points. The first point is called the karate chop. It's on the side of your hand. Doesn't have to be precise, just in the general area. So I'm going to tap above that and say the whole sentence. Even though I have this mold toxicity, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So then there are a few more points. The next one is on top of the head. So even though I have this mold toxicity, right? I'm going to tap there. The next point is on the inside of the eyebrow. So even though I have this mold toxicity, next point, outside of the eyebrow. Even though I have this mold toxicity, next point, right below the eye. Even though I have this mold toxicity, next point, right here between the nose and the upper lip. Even though I have this mold toxicity, the next point is your collarbone, so like right below it. Even though I have this mold toxicity. And then underneath the armpits, you can put your hand kind of here, right where that pinky falls. Tap, even though I have this mold toxicity. And then you're going to go back and end on the karate chop. Even though I have this mold toxicity, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Then you're going to take a deep breath. If you have any water nearby, you can take a sip. Swallowing can help you go into that parasympathetic state. And then you're going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 again. So I already feel a little bit calmer. So I might move that rating of a 6 down to a 5. And if it's still above a 3, you would repeat the whole thing again, starting with the karate chop, whole sentence, and then do the points here, crossing over the body. So if you're using your right hand, you would be doing the left side of your body, eyebrow, eyebrow, eye, nose, chin, collarbone, armpit, ending with the whole sentence with the cry chop. So that is one technique that you can use. I particularly like this one when I'm having a real symptom. So I used a very general example today, but if I'm having one of my symptoms like air hunger and I'm really having a hard time catching a deep breath, I might tap on, even though I'm having air hunger, I deeply and completely love and accept myself, and see if that symptom can come down. So that is a free resource that you can start with to do a little bit of that limbic retraining. We go over in the Reboot course some other resources that go much deeper into that brain retraining. And then for the vagal piece, there's a lot of vagal exercises out there. Just a really, really simple one that we like to get people started with is called resonant breathing. And resonant breathing is where you're just matching the inhale with the exhale. So I'm just going to bring this down real quick. I realize it might be nice to not have this up there. Okay. So again, matching inhale with exhale. So if you can breathe in for 5 seconds and then breathe out for 5 seconds. And if 5 seconds is too much for you, you can start with 3 seconds in and 3 seconds out. So we have a blog post on that. I'll see if Cam or Zach can throw that into the comments for you guys. I think we also have a video on that as well. But again, the EFT tapping and the resonant breathing are both in our nervous system reboot course. And if you have never done any nervous system work, that's a great foundation to get kind of an understanding of the science behind it and why we do not just vagal, but also that limbic piece. And also there's a third piece to it, evaluating structural pieces to make sure there's no impairment on the vagus nerve can be helpful. If you're kind of stuck in that fight or flight, there may be an impairment on the vagus nerve, because if you think about it, it's a true physical thing inside our body. Okay, I'm going to bring that down. So we mentioned gratitude and how it's not just a thought, it's biochemistry, right? So there are studies that show feeling of gratitude can lower that stress hormone like cortisol, and it can lower some inflammatory markers. It can improve your overall sleep quality. It can reduce blood pressure and heart rate. It can increase motivation. So we can kind of boost our positive emotions and, our goal-directed actions. And it increases that feeling of social connectedness. So when I think about what it means to be human, we are we biologically evolved in tribes. We were not meant to be isolated, and that being connected to someone is very, very important for healing. And so gratitude can increase that social connectedness. And often if you think about, what we're grateful for, it's usually friends and family. That's, one of the things I know I'm grateful for. And so I want to share my gratitude practice, and then I'm going to ask Kimberly and Alex to share theirs. So in the spirit of connectedness, my gratitude practice is my daily gratitude practice. I do this every single day, is at dinner time with my husband and my son. When we're sitting at the dinner table, I ask everyone to share one thing that they are grateful for, at least one thing. So, we like to go around a couple times, but often it's even if you've kind of had a bad day, you can think of at least one thing that you're grateful for. And when I started this practice before my son was even born, it was not something that my husband, did on a daily basis. And he had a really hard time with it. And back then I was making him say 3 things. So I realized sometimes you have to start even slower. And so I had him, once he identified 3 things, for weeks and weeks on time, it was literally the same 3 things that he said. But it was getting him to acknowledge that there were things that he was truly grateful for. And my son, you know, he has the funniest things that he's grateful for. Sometimes it's watching TV at grandma's house, and you know, but he's grateful for that because we don't do a lot of screen time at home. So it's really nice to kind of get the whole family involved. Really, what is your favorite gratitude practice?
Yeah, my favorite way to do gratitude, I like to shift. Like I usually do it in the morning when I walk my dog, and so I will make a little challenge in my head, like I want to find 5 things that bring me joy on the walk, or sometimes it's 10 things. Some days it's easier than others, right? If it's winter versus spring, there's a lot popping up now, so a lot to be happy about. So yeah, just looking to nature and getting outside and walking the dog and naming. And it might not always be something I see, but it could be something that I'm thinking about too, like family or friends or something like that. But that's what I like to do. I sort of stack that with my morning walk.
Nice. Alex, what is your favorite gratitude practice?
Well, when I first get up in the morning, I do my daily prayers, and a big part of the praying is that I always list 3 things that I'm grateful for, and there oftentimes goes more. And sometimes I get stuck at 1 or 2, but I'll hang in there and, you know, try to find something, even if it's, I had a patient one time who I would ask him how he's doing, and he goes, well, I'm still breathing and I'm on the right side of the dirt. And I thought, whoa, man, that is a pretty cynical gratitude, but you know, if it works. And then I also then take my dogs out for a walk, and I let them dictate the pace. And they're of the breed, you know, every bush or tree or post is to be peed on. And so we kind of like take 45 minutes or an hour and just go around, and I try to appreciate like what I'm looking at. If we're in the park, it could be animals, it could be plants, it could be a stream. But oftentimes, like this time of year, it's people's flowers and flowering trees, bushes, the new leaves, all those kinds of things. And I just feel a lot better by the time I get home.
Yeah. I'm going to share a funny story because this was not part of this. On my walk this morning, it actually put me in fight or flight instead of gratitude. I had moments of both. I smelled some beautiful flowers that smelled amazing. I didn't acknowledge them as gratitude, but now that you're saying that, it's like I really should incorporate that into my walks with Bodhi. But I was chased by a wild turkey on my walk this morning. Not grateful for that. It was kind of hilarious. So like now laughing about it feels really good. But like in the moment when it started walking, and I have a nice video of it walking really close, and I have my both dogs on the leash and my 6-year-old, and we think it's the same turkey that was in our yard the other day that was like up on my dad's, like on the back of his truck. Like it just jumped up on his tailgate and was, you know, there. So we're like, oh, maybe this turkey recognizes us and it's coming near to say hi. And it got a little close, and I was like, all right, let's go. Like, you know, and then like we're about 10 feet away, and it literally started chasing us, like running down the street. So that was a little nerve-wracking, but it was still kind of funny. All right, so that's kind of what we do. You know, you can see that we want to walk the talk, and we do gratitude every single day. But here are some other ideas if you guys are kind of like, okay, what else can I do? Journaling. So, you know, writing down those things that you're grateful for. Gratitude journaling is pretty popular. Mindfulness. This is a great one this is kind of how I incorporate it. So like we do it while we're eating, but a great way to get into that parasympathetic state, which is also known as rest and digest, is being really mindful right before you eat or right before bed can help put you into that rest and digest state. So what Alex and Kimberly are doing on their walks, where they're looking around in their current environment for those things to appreciate. And so like the smell of the flower, when you use your senses, you become really present, and that can be really great and calm on your nervous system. I think we have a whole past live on that senses exercise. So if you're kind of curious about that one, we have a video on that. Maybe Zach or Cam can throw that into the comments for you guys if they can find it easily. But yeah, being really present using our senses. saying it. So, the example of doing it at dinner, like we're saying it out loud to other people so other people can acknowledge it. And then feeling heard and seen can be really calming on the nervous system. And then a gratitude stretch. So taking a few minutes in your day to think of things that you're grateful for. And then when you run out of something, you stretch for a few and then look for a few more things that you're grateful for. So I already asked everyone what they're grateful for, but I didn't ask our audience. So I would love to see in the comments if you are grateful for something. Please let us know. I see Mary, she's working on her nervous system and seeing positive outcomes. She's doing the Primal Trust program. And thank you, Mary, for letting us know that you find our support fantastic. And then Tara is saying that her morning prayer sets her into gratitude. I love the turkey story. I hope I could, bring some laughter to everyone. Let's see. Anyone else sharing what they're grateful for in the comments? Come on, guys. Let's get into it. What's one thing you're grateful for today?
I see that Elizabeth is grateful for not needing a bone biopsy. I would feel very grateful about that too.
Yeah. All right, Alex, I will keep an eye on the chat. Let's get into the next topic, healing the whole self. Sunshine.
Yeah.
Or sunshine.
Healing your whole self. It's not just physical. And I was thinking about this today and yesterday and thinking about what is health? Well, I was trained as a physician, and I would say that my initial definition was mostly concerned with the physical being health is the lack of illness or injury. But at Mass Cell 360, I think we align more with functional medicine, naturopathic medicine, osteopathic medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and so many other traditions. And we view health as a state of physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, a major disruption in any of these states can impact your whole system and throw you out of balance. It could be a bad illness like a heart attack, or a mental illness like depression or anxiety. It could be an emotional illness from trauma or abuse, or even spiritual illness. I know for me, it was hard initially as a conventional physician to work spirituality into this kind of, excuse me, got a scratchy throat from recovering from a cold a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, it was hard to work that in because it was so often derided. And it's also hardest to define because it means so many different things to different people. But one way of looking at it is that having meaning and purpose in one's life, a sense of connection to something larger than yourself, and finding this meaning is associated with strong mental, emotional, social, and physical health. So isolation, addiction, lack of meaning, hope, or sense of self, those can all be manifestations of spiritual illness. And I know personally for myself, as I moved more toward functional medicine 25 years ago or so, that I always believed in the mind, body, spirit connection for decades. But in conventional medicine, I didn't really have a way to put the mind and the body together, much less the spirit. And learning about the function and the dysfunction of the limbic system and the vagus nerve have been instrumental in being able to help guide people back to a state of health, as well as myself. So that's one thing that I've noticed. And most of us don't. Well, none of us should live in isolation. And so the additional support that you need to find a way to get it. And I know I was raised to be self-sufficient, don't ever ask for help. And I don't think that that's a way for us to really get healthy. I'm going to go to the next slide, Jamie. Oh, community and support, critically important. I think that, one obstacle to health that seems to be increasing in our society is the loss of community and connection. and there's a lot of reasons for that. We've got a very mobile culture, and many of us don't live near our family. We have to create new friends. We lack a sense of roots. We've got things that distract us: cell phones, laptops, and special social media. And we live under a lot of time pressure, stress, and multitasking, having to do it all. So it's interesting that studies have shown that there are benefits of connection and community. It supports overall health, supports improved immune function. It helps to regulate your nervous system. And the stories that people share oftentimes validate what you might be going through or I might be going through, and provides a lot of hope and inspiration, and so much more. As social beings, we're wired for connection. I know that the social connection can help people live longer, healthier lives. Being socially connected in studies has been shown to be associated with a higher risk to being disconnected is associated with a higher risk of illnesses, including heart disease, stroke, anxiety, depression, dementia. And loneliness and isolation increases the risk of premature death by more than 25%. Last year, Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, declared a public health disconnection epidemic, warning that about 50% of Americans are struggling with loneliness. And in the UK and Japan, they've instituted kind of like connection programs for people. Studies have also shown the benefit of something called pro-sociality, behaviors intended to help or benefit others, like sharing or volunteering, making charitable donations. And these studies show greater cognitive and physical health, a sense of well-being, and oftentimes showed that the acts these acts benefit the giver as much or even more than the receiver. What's the next slide, Jamie? Oh, okay. So what is one small way you can add some calming support to your day? And maybe just one, so you don't get overwhelmed. I think, for myself, one of the things that I did this morning before this was I had a little bit of time, so I played music. And for me, that's a great way to calm, because you kind of have to be 100% there. And that can be very helpful. A couple of days ago, I spent the day helping my daughter paint her apartment, which, I wasn't really looking forward to, but, seeing it happen and being there with people just made me feel great by the end of the day. So, maybe, think about ways that you do calm yourself every day.
Yeah. So maybe it's doing EFT tapping, maybe it's doing some resonant breathing, maybe it's adopting a gratitude practice. Hopefully from today's discussion, you guys got some ideas of what you can do. And, some comments were rolling in earlier when I asked everyone what they're grateful for. So grateful for making it through a busy weekend without a flare. That's an amazing thing. And using some FSM, nervous system support. That is a tool that we discuss in the Reboot course if you're kind of wondering what that is. Let's see. Lee is grateful for learning how to calm their nervous system. Elizabeth is thankful for this group, feeling connected here. We're so glad that you're experiencing that. Tara is grateful for her body, dog, house, car. Yeah, see. Simple things. Oh, Elizabeth is grateful for having a swim in the sea today. I am extremely jealous of that.
I'm seeing one of just talking about breathing exercises, and I think for me that's the simplest one, where might be like totally worked up about something, but I still have to keep going. I'm going to see my next client or whatever, and to just take a minute or two, like the resonant breathing would be great, or the VU breathing that we talked about, or just doing some kind of breathing on your own can really help to bring that level of intensity down.
Yeah, I've found that the breath work is very much something we can control versus a lot of the other things we cannot control. So it's like you can purposely slow down that breath work.
Exactly. If you think about the autonomic nervous system, automatic nervous system, temperature regulation, breathing, digesting food, like it's connected to all of those, but the breath is the one thing that you actually can control. So it's like a direct line to our nervous system through breath.
Yeah.
So breathing.
And I'm seeing someone just saying that simply being able to walk, and it made me think about how much time in my life I've spent on crutches and just how limiting that felt, and just the freedom of finally being able to walk and, be independent and transport myself around. Feeling very grateful for that.
Yeah. And Karen saying binaural beats for calming ideas, laying down, closing eyes with a timer. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So thank you for sharing what you're grateful for. If you want to share something like that one thing that, you are going to add in, we'd love to hear. Like, this is a support group. This is a community. We want to, if by typing it out, you feel a little bit more held accountable for actually implementing that one thing, feel free to include that in the comments. Put it out into the universe that you're going to start doing this one thing per day to support your calm. And also, we do have a little bit of time. So if you have any questions, again, just a reminder to keep them on the topic. Only submit your question once, and please keep from sharing too much personal health information, since we're unable to answer those questions. Let's see. So not Bruce, Carol is sharing that she's grateful for how wonderful my body it made. Grateful
Is made, probably.
Made, probably, yes. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Grateful for feline buddies.
Yeah, I'll add, my dogs got me through a lot. Right. You can co-regulate with your pet, because they're usually, especially if it's a calm pet, right?
Yeah, I do some breath work with, it's like about parenting specifically, but there are people in the community that I do breath work with that don't have children yet, but they do the techniques with their animals. So yeah, you can totally co-regulate with an animal. Horses are amazing therapeutic, like animals as well.
Mm-hmm. That's how I chose my dog. I was fostering her, and one day I was upset about something, crying, and she literally was sleeping, got up, came over, and laid on my chest. I'm like, wow. Okay, I guess I'm keeping you.
Yeah.
She still does that. Like anytime someone's upset, she comes over and is like, okay, I need to do emotional support. I'm your weighted blanket. Yeah. Yeah.
So Pratt is asking, where can I find good information on breathing techniques? Kimberly, do you want to take it?
The important thing there is you want slow and calm breath, because you don't want activating breath. So definitely avoiding like Wim Hof and all that kind of activating breath. With MCAS, you want more the calming piece. So longer exhale than inhale. And I think just starting with the simple, like resonant breathing, box breathing.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 deep breaths.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamie. Did you have a brief?
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't go too much into this, but like I know in the root causes report, hypoxia, so like low oxygen is actually can be a mast cell trigger. And so like doing some things to improve those breathing, like, if you can do nasal breathing, it's better than mouth breathing, but some people are so congested or experiencing sinus symptoms. So a book that I love is called Breathe. And that kind of teaches you a little bit more about the science of like why our breath is so, so powerful. So, that might be a good place to start, just to educate yourself on like if the breath specifically is like where you want to begin. I always tell people like the best nervous system tools are the ones that you actually enjoy and are going to want to do, because they're going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, that's a great read. James Nestor. Mm-hmm. That one. Yeah.
I used to have it right by my desk, but I think it's on my book stand, or my nightstand right now. Let's see.
I see Elizabeth saying that, with the weather getting nicer, planning to be outside. And for me, being in nature is one of the most calming and spiritual things that I find helpful. And just sitting on the back porch and breathing in the air, feeling the sun in your face. Of course, we have to talk about sunblock, but anyway, just that feeling it's incredible. And if you can tap into there, it's always there. Nature is always there.
Yeah. And the piece about nature too is I always tell people if you can hear a bird song, that's really regulating for the nervous system, because a bird wouldn't be singing if it thought danger was looming. So when you hear that bird song, it can be regulating for the nervous system as well.
And light signaling is so important. I know sometimes we get stuck in bed and then we're not getting outside. But if there's any way to kind of get outside, especially around sunrise, sunset, and noontime, for that light signaling really can help circadian rhythm and just making your body feel like I'm in this normal pattern, right? This day-night pattern, this circadian rhythm. It's really important.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
There's some other good questions there. Let's see about vagus nerve.
Any quick tips for physically affecting the vagus nerve stimulation? Maybe alternate nostril breathing can be a stimulating one. So alternate nostril breathing is when you close the right side and you breathe in through the left, and then you close your left, breathe out through the right, breathe in through the right, close, breathe out through the left. That's one cycle. So you can do that a few times to see if it upregulates that vagus nerve stimulation. Because sometimes we get stuck in freeze is another stress response. And we actually have to take our foot off the brake and upregulate to be able to kind of get out of that frozen state. Because if you think about some animals, they play dead, that's their stress response. And then some animals just run, and that's the flight response. And then there's some animals that will fight back. That's also a stress response. So we have a lot of stress responses that look different. So how you personally react to stress may be different than someone else. And so that's another reason why having an idea, some different tools to try out and try on can be really important.
I would add singing and humming.
Yeah,
you can do anywhere, like in the car, singing along or humming can be very, very help with the vagal nerve stimulation.
Let's see. Denise is grateful for meditation, music, scriptural verses, and being able to lay down flat. Let's see. Anything else coming in? Laughter. Denise is also grateful for laughter.
Yeah, laughter yoga is big. If you've never done it, I've done it a couple of times. It's contagious, right? So when one person starts laughing, everybody starts laughing. And some people really enjoy doing that. So yeah, something to look at.
Yeah. I forget what Bodhi did something the other day, and Craig's remark, I just had a deep belly laugh. And Craig was in his office, and he was like, I haven't heard you laugh like that in so long. And it felt good. It felt totally good to just full on belly laugh.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention about the nervous system is sometimes we focus so much on calming that it's not that we want to be in this state of mute and no response. It's could you get to that ventral vagal or that activated playful joy space is really where you want to be.
Yeah, when you feel connected. So often when we're looking for social connection, we turn to social media, see what our friends are doing, but it's why don't you call that friend? Why don't you actually connect with that friend? And so if we're seeking it through kind of the doom scroll, the question is okay, we're probably not in that ventral vagal state. What can we do to actually get to a place where we feel encouraged to call someone and connect with someone and be playful with someone? Yeah, that's a great point.
And I think it's huge, that in-person connection, when and where you can, whether it's somebody coming over, if you're too sick to leave your house, could somebody come visit? or like that pet, right? We talked about, because I'm just even looking at like my own data. Like I have my Oura ring and it tells me about like my nervous system state, and mine was so much better last night. But I look at what I did yesterday. I spent time with family and friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You brought up a good point about like that support and connection. And I just want to remind people that next week we'll be having Elle, our emotional support coach, on. And she's going to be, we're going to be having a conversation about advocacy and support with chronic illness, because it's really important to have that support and be able to talk to your family and distinguish what is like a healthy support versus maybe having people there that may not be as supportive and of the healing process. So it's really important to find the correct support in your healing journey as well. So make sure you mark your calendars for next week and tune in with us if you're available, or catch the replay. I'm just looking real quick for any last questions before we sign off. Doesn't look like there's too many today. Hopefully everyone has an idea of one thing that they can do to get going. Okay, and I just want to remind people that MassHealth 360 does have a remote health consulting clinic. We have 2 tiers of clients, foundational and advanced. And so our foundational client tier is strategy sessions with our health coaches, where we kind of go over where you are in your healing journey and give you some personalized action steps to kind of move the needle in the right direction. Versus our advanced support is our long-term ongoing support with a health coach and a lead practitioner, either Kimberly or Alex. So you can find our application at masshealth360.com/application. When you click that apply button, it will take you to our pre-screening questionnaire. That first question is going to ask you about emotional support. And so that is open to anyone. You don't have to be a client to get emotional support. And that's with Elle, who you'll meet next week, or you can go back and watch our replays. She's been on 1 or 2 of our lives before. And then you can continue to go through the questionnaire. You'll get asked foundational or advanced. So if you're looking for just a one-time session, you can do a strategy session. That would be advanced. Or if you want our full application, you can continue on to the advanced one. I do just want to let everyone know we are accepting international clients now. If you are international, we do require you start with a strategy session so that we can evaluate and make sure that we are the best fit for you and able to support you the best we can, knowing that we operate within, East Coast time. The supplements we recommend are, US-based supplements. So we want to make sure that we can provide you guys the support you need to move forward with our recommendations, if that makes sense for you. So that's there for you if you're interested in applying. And you can always email us if you have any questions at support@masshealth360.com. I want to turn it over to Alex and Kimberly. Any final words?
I guess I would say the way forward is not stopping and being afraid, and it's not running to the other side, because that's the 2 places I see people get stuck, and that can be related to the nervous system. So slow, consistently showing up for yourself, imperfectly moving forward.
Yeah, I liked what I heard you guys say and learned some today also, and just believe that you kind of have to accept yourself and love yourself for where you are. And life is a journey. You're never going to get there. And so be present where you are, and you can be working towards something one step at a time. And progress and healing is possible. Yeah,
Karen's saying progress, not perfection. It's very, very true. And I just want to reiterate I can't remember if it was Alex or Kimberly, which one of you said it, but all those little small things really do add up over time. So I think it was actually something that Kimberly started us off with. It's like hydration, prioritizing sleep, having a gratitude practice. Like removing those triggers, like even though they seem very minute in the moment, doing a lot of little things can really make big progress as well. So just choosing one little thing to do just to move the needle, when you're good with that one and you've established that habit, just pick one more little thing to do, and you will see some big change over time. Oh, and Susan is saying imperfectly moving forward. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which requires a little bit of patience, right? A little bit of patience required.
I like the analogy of pennies in the bank. Every time you do something like that, you're putting another penny in the bank. And it doesn't sound like very much, but after a year, you've got an investment.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you did a penny a day, 360, that's only $3.65. Can I do math? Okay, wow, it's $365, but it's only $3.
But it's in the positive, right? It's in the positive. You're also stopping that drain.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.